There are new developments tonight in the investigation of those classified documents removed from the former president's Florida home, Mar-a-Lago. Will the affidavit be revealed when the judge will now hear arguments on both sides of this, and soon? And tonight, who the FBI has already interviewed from inside the Trump White House.
The White House has said it had no previous knowledge of the FBI search at Trump's home. But in a social media post this weekend, former President Trump questioned that claim.
Trump alleged agents knowingly confiscated privileged attorney-client material, writing, "I respectfully request that these documents be immediately returned."
Following the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago, Trump now wants to know who ratted him out to the feds. I'm Yasmin Khan with Rebel HQ, and I first want to clarify that the National Archive and Records Administration knew Trump had taken White House documents to his private residence that weren't his to take. They had asked for them back, and he failed to deliver them. One thing that was reported when the FBI finally searched Mar-a-Lago was that the feds knew exactly what they were looking for and where to find it, implying that either someone on the inside was cooperating with the FBI, the DOJ, the National Archive, or all of the above, or that Trump's inner circle had been wiretapped by the government. Commentators also wondered why it was necessary for the property to be searched the way it was when the DOJ could have just issued a subpoena for the missing documents. The thing is, they did. In accordance with the Presidential Records Act, presidents are supposed to turn over their presidential records to the National Archive once their presidential term is done. Upon Biden's inauguration, the archive had received some records from Trump, but not all. Some of the records that were turned over were either torn up and taped back together. Naturally, the archive wanted the records that they were missing, and earlier this year they requested and arranged for the transfer of 15 boxes of documents from Mar-a-Lago. Trump complied, but the archive had reason to believe that some highly sensitive and classified documents were still missing. Prior to this, Trump had sued the archive in an effort to prevent the January 6th committee from accessing his presidential documents, but his suit was overturned by the Supreme Court. Still attempting to recover missing records, in June of this year, members of the DOJ met with Trump and his attorney. Trump gave them a tour of the premises at Mar-a-Lago, including a basement storage locker, and the DOJ later subpoenaed surveillance footage of the basement, which they received. But they still didn't have all of the missing documents. 2 months later, after several attempts to obtain the missing documents in a less explosive manner, the FBI finally obtained a search warrant and retrieved the documents themselves. Following what's being called a raid, even though it's not really a raid, it was a legal, legitimate search of the premises, reports have come out that Trump is having a hard time assembling a legal team to represent him against the Department of Justice. His supporters have since threatened and attacked FBI premises. They're threatening a civil war on social media. They're issuing calls to defund the FBI, and of course, we've been hearing a lot about Hillary's emails again. Trump even leaked the names of the FBI agents involved in the search to Breitbart, which then published their names, doxing the agents and making them the target of harassment from Trump supporters. Trump tried to deflect his own blame, claiming, quote, "President Barack Hussein Obama kept 33 million pages of documents. How much of them classified? How many of them pertain to nuclear? Word is lots." The National Archive has debunked Trump's seemingly entirely baseless claim. His claim also contradicts his other claim that the retrieved documents were planted. According to the New York Times, some senior Republicans have been advised not to speak out too much against the FBI or the DOJ because it likely won't age well, as more damaging details pertaining to the search are expected to be made public. This is similar to Trump-sympathetic reporters asking why they couldn't have just subpoenaed Trump for the documents, only to later discover that they had done exactly that. The narrative of government overreach that these reporters are trying to push, especially with their attempts to claim that the United States is a third world country and a banana republic, don't hold up too well. There are other claims that President Biden was behind this, even though this is a bit out of his purview. The search warrant was signed off by the head of the Department of Justice and the Trump-appointed FBI director. Following the search, reporting from the Wall Street Journal and Newsweek stated that an insider had informed authorities about the classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. And according to an ex-federal prosecutor, the existence of this anonymous informant is driving Trump, quote, Nuts. So to recap, Trump claims the FBI search was a raid that came out of nowhere, even though he was aware of and involved in several previous instances in which the National Archive tried to retrieve the missing documents in accordance with the Presidential Records Act. And Trump is now paranoid because he doesn't know who within his inner circle cooperated with authorities to divulge the location of the missing documents. And on top of everything, he's facing criminal charges and civil charges in New York pertaining to his business practices in the state, charges that he pled the fifth to despite his previously held opinion that only guilty people plead the fifth. His cronies, specifically Rudy Giuliani and Senator Lindsey Graham, are being subpoenaed to testify in Georgia regarding allegations of election tampering on his behalf in 2020. He's being accused of espionage. Paul Manafort, his former campaign chairman, confessed to turning over Trump polling data to a Ukrainian operative, who then turned them over to Russia. The Saudis may or may not have traded intel for billion-dollar investments in Jared Kushner's financial interests, and more. He's fighting several legal battles on several fronts, and he's having a hard time getting adequate legal representation. It doesn't look good for Trump, but we all know he has a way of getting away with things that most others never would or could. Still, who knows what will stick? After all, when they finally busted Al Capone, it was tax evasion that did him in. All right, that's it for me. Please like and subscribe if you got something out of this content, and be sure to follow me over on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you.